That's me in a nutshell. No. Thank you guys so much for having me. Is that Cam? No. But thank you guys so much for having me and for being here. I'm so impressed by this wonderful crowd. You guys had to come because you had to get your money, so I get it. No. My name's Allison Izu. Actually, tidbit, when I quiz you guys later, Izu is my middle name. So people don't normally know that. They think it's my maiden name. So, yes. I started my business, now you guys are gonna do math on how old I am, but I started my business over 10 years ago. And I went to UH. I kind of dabbled a little in the fashion industry here, or the fashion major here. And then I wanted to go to New York. So I figured out a way to transfer out and go to FIT. So FIT is a very technical school, and it's true what Savannah said. That's where I had my aha moment. So, you know, in fashion, you're making your samples, you have your fit model. My fit model was somebody who was like 5'8", and like really sadly, we had the same waist and hip measurements. She's 5'8", I'm 5'2". So I would make samples for her, and during school, I could fit it on her, but at home, when you're slaving away at midnight, I had to put it on myself. And I would put these jeans on, and for the short girls in the room, you know what happens, right? You look down and you're like, my whole foot is covered, right? And then, but more than that, it wasn't just the length, it was like everything about it. Because when you think about patterns and how you pattern a pair of pants, you think about like, where's my knee break? Where's my calf gonna be? And somebody who's 5'8" has a way longer inseam than somebody who's 5'2". And that was kind of my aha moment was, we're all in this design school and we're all using this pretty much the same skinny 5'8" fit model. And I thought, well, why am I creating clothing that I'm already struggling with in the stores? Because every time I go to try clothes on, I put it on and the pants covers my feet. Because for women, we don't buy pants the way men do. Men get to choose an inseam and a waist measurement. We just get a number. So that was kind of my aha moment. I was like, you know what? I'm a designer. Like, I could totally change the way that this industry is kind of built, and I could kind of make or pave my own way. And so that was my first instance of like, this is my why. This was my purpose of what I was gonna do. I was gonna create clothing for petite women. Moving through my business though, that word kind of pigeonholed me. And the word petite, for a lot of people, they think it's like a skinny, extra small, short person. But in the industry, it's anybody who's short. 5'4" or shorter, any size. So I started kind of thinking of different ways to use different marketing or different wording, but petite was really the word that I kind of stuck with. And so when I first started, it was the denim boom, and everybody was selling like $500 pairs of jeans, and I thought that would be a great place for me to start. For short women, jeans is something that we don't normally buy because it had all the cool, like, you know, distressing in the holes, but the hole that should be at my knee was at my calf, and, you know, like all of these weird fit issues, right? It's like wrong, so that's kind of where I started. But that's also where everything started to fall apart. So after I learned what I wanted to do, right? All the businesses say, find your why, what do you want to do? What's your purpose? Who's your target market? I figured all of that out. Now it's, well, what do I do with this information? I know what product I want to make, but how do I make it? And so this was before, I'm gonna really age myself. This is before like the internet was really big and you could actually Google search manufacturers and fabric vendors. Like this was like old school, like Yellow Pages kind of era for me. I know I look really young, but I am that old. So it was funny because I learned how to draw flats by hand. We didn't have Illustrator and all of these fun things. So that's how old I am. But, so it was hard. I didn't know where to start. My father's an entrepreneur. And just through family connections and friends, we actually met a guy who could manufacture in China. So I was like, okay, let's just try this, you know? China's like big bad city. I'm like one little fish. And it took me 2 years to like fully develop my line of denim. I chose 5 basic styles. I chose 2 different fabrics and different washes. And we made our jeans. And that was the first like atomic bomb on my business of manufacturing, was when I sold it into the stores. I got PR for it. We got all this great press. The jeans came from China, it landed, I got it out of customs. I opened the boxes, and they're like completely different from all of the sampling that we've been through. Completely. It was like they sent me somebody else's boxes. That's how different it was. And in an instance, I was like, what am I gonna do? I have literally wholesale orders that I'm supposed to start delivering tomorrow. And we did all this PR, people are expecting this, we had events planned. And I was like, oh my God, what am I gonna do, right? So I cried. I drank a little. And then I was like, okay, I have to do something, right? So I refunded all of the checks, I canceled all of my orders, and I took a trip like the week later to LA. I took all of my samples, I had all of my patterns, and I was like, I'm gonna do it here in LA. And I literally like drove around and like went to factories and found people who could kind of give me the minimums that I could kind of work with, because I just spent a lot of money on this China deal. And so I did that. I actually successfully put 2 collections out manufacturing in LA, but then the same problem happened. I don't live in LA, I live in Hawaii. I try to travel there as often as possible, but eventually the quality started to suck, and like everything just started to kind of fall apart because I wasn't physically there, and they didn't. Is that Cam? Come on, Cam, sit down. And it just, you know, I think that's the thing about being too far away from something that you should be managing really well. So LA I had another big mess up. Like I got 600 pairs of jeans from LA, they were all wrong, like the wash was off, the hems were off, the fit was off, and I had to take a pause. And that was when I started to think like, is this what I wanna do, right? Like I just spent a $50,000 line of credit on this business, and it's not bringing me money back, because fashion is cyclical, right? We have to keep making clothing. No matter if our spring collection didn't sell, I still have to make a fall collection. And that's where I kind of started to feel like, oh my God, is this what I'm supposed to do with my life? And then everything kind of changed. I think once you change your outlook on things, the other things will start to change. And that's what happened. I said, you know what? I'm gonna knock on doors here in Hawaii. I'm gonna find a factory who's gonna work with me, and I'm gonna start manufacturing jeans in Hawaii. So I met with a lot of factories. You know, the factories in Hawaii do primarily aloha shirts. So denim is a completely different industry. They didn't have the right machines. They couldn't do the right finishes, but I made it work. I was like, we're gonna do raw denim. I'm gonna kick press, tack buttons on myself. And so that's kind of what happened. So, you know, it started to kind of do well. I got picked up by Nordstrom at that time. We were featured in Oprah Magazine, and everything started to feel like it was falling in place. But you know what happens. It never is that way. So I think what happened throughout this whole process was every time a mistake happened, or every time, you know, a negative or a no, I got like a lot of no's in the beginning, happened, it kind of like eats away at you. And you kind of like lose that confidence that you had when you first started the business. Like when I first started the business, I was like, I would make my business plan, I'm like, I'm gonna sell everything. And that money's gonna roll out, I'm gonna sell everything again. And it was like this naivete that I didn't understand what the real world is gonna be like. And so after a while, you're just like, okay, now I don't know who I am. I don't really know what I'm doing. I kind of lost my why. And Nordstrom would be like, you should make this top, make a dress like that, we need a this. And I would just like make it for them, because they're Nordstrom. I'm like, yeah, you want that dress? I'll make that dress. And eventually my collection didn't look like me anymore. And so I kind of wanted to take a pause. Not that I stopped, I still did my collection, I still delivered to Nordstrom, I just didn't push my brand further than it already was. And that's around the time that I met a friend of mine who wanted to start a clothing business. And she has no industry background. She didn't do patterning. She can't sew. But she was a stylist, and she's like, I really want to start a brand. Will you mentor me? And I was like, okay, let's do this. And through that process, I thought, if I can mentor her and make her a business, I can do this for other people. So that was where I kind of detoured, and I started another business called the Cut Collective. So the Cut Collective, I still think it's a genius idea if anybody wants to take over this business. I basically helped other brands, once they knew their why, I helped them figure out everything else. I helped them get them in contact with manufacturing, sourcing. I helped them figure out cost of goods. I mean, we did everything. We consulted from top to bottom. We've helped brands like Salvage Public. We helped Fitted. So we really got all of those brands into the cut and sew business and helped them to kind of push their dream to be a little bigger. But I think what happened was I was losing these parts of me, and I was like so unsure of myself that I kind of just lost the passion for my brand, and it felt really fulfilling to help these other businesses start a brand. And they were so grateful, and I felt like I was doing this great service for people, and it felt good. And so we did Cut Collective. I started Allison Izu, and it was just a lot to manage. I also have 2 children. So in this whole mix of things, I birthed 2 children, and it just got like a lot. We started off in Manoa Innovation Center, then I moved to Ward Warehouse for a year, and it just felt like everything was happening one after the other, and I just couldn't say no. I don't say no to anything. And then it was just about this time that Von Maur, it's a huge department store in the Midwest, had called me, and they were like, we really want a petite line, we want it to be you. So then I started to manufacture for 8 stores in the Midwest, not really understanding what the Midwest weather or style or anything was like. I just thought, this Hawaii girl is gonna make clothing for the Midwest and it's gonna sell. I pushed out 2 collections for them and 1 plus petite collection, because now people are telling me to do plus petite. So I pushed those 2 collections out, and the second collection, they started to close stores. So this was like the decline of retail, the beginning of the decline of retail. They started to close stores, and they were not buying new things. And so I was the first in, I'm the first out. So they gave me back all of the clothes. No check, just the clothes. And I made all of this clothes for the Midwest and not for Hawaii. And I was like, oh my God, what am I gonna do? Who am I gonna sell this to? And that was when I was like, okay, time out. I need to really figure out what I'm doing here. I need to really understand, what do I wanna do with my life? And that's kind of, I always circle back to the why, the purpose, what's my passion. And so it's funny, it was 2017, and we were just going into 2018, and I was like, I'm gonna choose a word for 2018. Do you guys do this? When it's a new year, you choose a word, and you're like, this is the word for the year, this is how I'm gonna live my life. And my word was authentic. It just came to me, it was like, bing. And I was like, okay, authentic. What does that mean, right? I think what I realize now in hindsight was that whole, 20 years before that I was struggling, I wasn't being authentic to myself. I wasn't understanding, I didn't start with the why. I thought petite was the why. I thought making clothing was my why. I thought my purpose was to be a fashion designer who owned a brand. And I couldn't figure it out anymore. And so I went into a hole, and I kind of had a midlife crisis. And I thought, okay, I went into this dark time, I'm gonna figure my crap out, And I think I turned 40 at that time, so that had a little to do with it too. I think it's like finding yourself and trying to figure it out, because it's almost like I had this chance to rebirth into something new for myself and for my business. And during this time, my business still ran, but I exited from my business, and my production still handled from my production manager. I still had a pattern maker who did patterns, and everything was going smoothly. And during this time, this woman asked me, like, hey, will you come to our women's organization and talk to us about how to dress and what's people's color stories and do all of this thing? And so I was like, sure. It's 50 women. I went to go do this thing. I did all of this research about bodies. And you use like the fruit metaphors, right? So I taught them what an apple was like and what a pear was like, and maybe you're a banana. We did this thing. And after I did it, it was the best like buzz feeling in the room. Like these women were coming up to me. They were like, oh my God, thank you so much. I didn't realize I was a this, and I didn't realize I was supposed to wear this kind of pants, and all of these things. And I was like, wow. With just this little amount of information that I gave them, they felt empowered. They felt secure. They were ready to like take on the world with that new outfit that I just told them they should buy. And that's when I was like, wow, fashion could be more than just clothing. And I think that's where I couldn't find the pieces. I couldn't make the connection, because to me, fashion always felt selfish. It felt like a little silly and a little trivial. You know, it's just clothing. We should all not worry so much about it, you know? And branding and marketing felt trivial, right? We're making people feel insecure about themselves so that they feel like they have to buy my jeans because it's gonna make you feel or look like the Kardashians or whatever. And that's where the fashion industry, I had this weird turmoil with it. So after I felt that, I was like, wow, fashion can be a vessel for so much more. You know, before I would be like, I'm not gonna change the world with a pair of pants. But after that seminar, I was like, I can change the world with one pair of pants. You know, and I felt like the whole term power suit is true, right? You put on the right outfit, you embody the confidence that that outfit gives to you. And that was when I was like, this is my why. This was my purpose, to do this, to empower women through clothing. So I'm gonna tell you this also like really weird thing. After that seminar, I was like drawing fruits on a page and trying to make it look cute, because I didn't want to use fruits anymore. And I was like drawing it, and I'm like, oh, that's so weird. Like a pear is kind of like an A. And like the banana is like an I. And then my hourglass shape could be an S, and an apple could be an O. And I was like, crap, those are the letters of my first name, right? So I was like, oh my God, the universe just went bing again. And I was like, oh my God, all the letters of my first name became my body shapes. So A is somebody who has like a little more hippie, like 2 L's became my athletic build. I was a slim person. S is my hourglass. O is somebody who holds weight in their middle. And N was my inverted triangle. That was somebody who had broader shoulders. And I was like, well, now I can't deny this. Like, I can't turn away from this. This was my purpose. And I could feel it. I was like, okay, this is what it's gonna be. And that's kind of where Live Your Letter came in to be. Because with the right clothing and the right mindset, I felt like people could embody their bodies and live their letter, which means they could do anything because they felt unstoppable, because they look so great, right? That's what fashion is for us. And so I think what I really wanted Live Your Letter to become was a platform for women to also see themselves in ads, see themselves in, you know, different women, and start to understand like, oh, I can wear that if she's wearing that. Because before we would market and we would put the skinny model who's like taller than me in clothing, and nobody could relate to that. But this, people could relate to. And so I think through all of that, I realized that I didn't even change anything of my business. I didn't change the styles. I didn't change the fabric. I didn't even make new patterns for new styles. I literally sold the same clothing, but it was how I marketed it, it was how I packaged it, and it was how I educated women. And I think that's like the key is how do you tell your message, right? How do you get that message across? Because really, my name of my brand is my name. If you only heard Allison Izu, you wouldn't know. I could make pies. You wouldn't know, right? So how do I get my message across? Was the branding, the people that I put in my ads, and my Live Your Letter campaign. And so now it's really new. I launched Live Your Letter September of last year was my 10-year business anniversary. And that was when I was like, we have to change things up. So I changed it to Live Your Letter. And I can honestly say, when women come up to me now, we do seminars in the store, they get it, they understand it. If I say like, oh no, if you put a skinny pant on with a wide top, it's gonna balance out your hips, they get it. And that was when I understood like all of this knowledge, all of this expertise could kind of empower them. And so that's kind of my true why now, is giving women the tools. It's funny, like we have these seminars and we sit down and I talk about the letters, talk about what clothes you're supposed to wear. And it's so cute, like women will raise their hand and they'll be like, I never thought to, right? Like some of my customers are older and they have a little some extra something everywhere. And so all they do is they put a tent on and they walk out the door. And they don't realize what they're doing is just adding 30 pounds to their body. So, you know, I think through that, they started to feel more comfortable to try new things, to try new clothes, to see their body in a different way. And I always start off by saying, it's not your fault, right? We were born this way, in this body, and I'm never gonna be Giselle, right? No matter how many squats I do, I won't have a butt like J-Lo, right? So once we can like accept our bodies as is, then we can dress it, then we can be empowered, then we can go on and conquer the world. But I don't know if you boys understand, but what women do is we just tear ourselves down when we look at ourselves in the mirror, you know? And we're like, oh God, my butt is so flat, and like I have a little muffin top, and you guys don't do that?
No, Joel does.
You do that. We're kindred spirits. I felt that in the beginning. You do that, really? Oh, okay. See, boys don't even understand. They don't understand what we go through. But that's what we go through, you know? And so, do you?
Sometimes, like, you know, I do look at my butt and I'm like, I have no butt.
Oh, but you're okay with it.
Well, I don't know what to do about it. So.
Yeah, I don't know what to do about it either. I made smaller back pockets, though. That kind of helps, yeah. Yeah, smaller yoke, you know. But I think, right, that's like all women. I mean, you guys, I would die for your guys' body, but you guys probably go through it too. So we all go through it, right? And I think through doing these seminars, all of these women start to like talk and they're like, oh my God, I would kill for your legs. And oh my God, you have the greatest body. And it's like this camaraderie happens and this empowerment happens. And that's what fulfills me the most. It's more fulfilling than helping other people start their brand. You know, it's more fulfilling than making petite jeans. And that's when I was like, that's when I found my passion again. And that's when I kind of got rejuvenated to kind of push on. And it's funny, like I'm a spiritual person. Like I totally believe that the universe is like helping us and pointing us in the right direction. And I felt like after all of this happened in September, the door opened for me to open Ala Moana Center. And I was like, I always question it, like, had I not gone through the dark time of my breakdown, would I not have found this new purpose? And then would I not have had Ala Moana? So I always really value all of the mistakes that I've been through, all of the mess ups and the negative bank accounts. You know, I always really appreciate that because it takes me here where I am. And it makes me really grateful that I've learned all of these like difficult things along the way, because now I have Ala Moana. And I will tell you that everyone's like, oh, you have Ala Moana, oh my God, you must be like rolling in money. It's not a cakewalk, you know? So every stage gets you to that next point, but at that next point, you have like growing pains. And that's where I'm at now. But it's funny because when I think back to where I started, I used to do like pop-up trunk shows in like a conference room like this when I first started in Manoa, to now having an Ala Moana store. It's like, I have to pause sometimes and give myself a little credit, you know? Because it is, I think, for all of you who are starting out your business, you're hoping that you're gonna just start making money from the get-go. Probably won't be that way. I hate to break it to you guys. But know that if it's your passion and if your heart is truly in it, all of the crappy things that happen to you, it won't matter, you know, because you'll just push through and you'll get to that next point, growing pains, next point, growing pains, so on and so forth. I don't know where I'm supposed to end, but I'm gonna end here.
Okay. Then I'll pick this up.
Yeah.
So we're gonna open it up for questions, everybody. And please raise your hand, and when you're selected, say your name, and then ask your question. So if any of you guys want to
Questions?
start. Yeah.
Go.
Please raise your hand.
Go, go. Yes.
My name's Helen, and I heard you mention the cut collective. I was just curious on what that was.
You want to take it over? No, I'm just kidding. You're like, oh my God, why did I ask this question? So the Cut Collective was me and my partner Summer. We started it and we basically did like the whole gamut of patterning for people. We would like source for people. We would sample for people. Then we would get them into factories, and then we would help them with events. So I also kind of work with the state a little bit with DBED, and so we would help them like get into the Made-in-Hawai'i festival or do a trunk show in Waikiki or whatever. So that was the Cut Collective. It's a really good business model. I honestly, if anybody wants to take it over, it's a really good business model. I was really sad the day I had to let it go, because if I had had the Cut Collective 15 years ago, it might have not have taken me so long. You know, was always what I thought. But yeah, you're thinking about it. I can see it. You can call me. I'll give you my card. No. You want the Cut Collective? I even own the name. No. It's a good name.
I know a lot of people that used it, and people still talk about it, and it was like, you know how Paces for entrepreneurs and small businesses, like it's like a launch for designers.
Yeah. People thought we cut hair though. That was weird. So
is it like dormant as of now?
it is, because and it's funny because we did we did one really big fashion immersive with the state, and we actually took 10 brands, we put them through this 5-day course. We brought speakers in, and we took 3 of them to LA. And we did like sourcing trip, we took them into factories, and they got to meet all of these like business professionals in LA, and the state funded it. And then the following year, they're like, do you want to do it? And we're like, oh no. So it kind of went on pause, and then it's dormant now. Yeah, you're thinking about it now.
No,
You wish you had it.
really cool.
It is. It's so funny, like every time I meet a really strong pattern maker, I'm like, you should do the Cut Collective. But it takes more than just patterning, but I think that's kind of where everyone's need was. And nowadays in fashion, everybody wants to be in our industry. It's so glamorous. And so they don't even go to school for it. They just like, you know, I used to do this and now I want to do that. But what's funny is I also think, in talking with how things relate from school to the industry in Hawaii, there's not enough space. There wasn't enough space for Cut Collective to keep pushing new businesses out that needed cut and sew, because then they started to come into our factories, and then I wasn't ready to leave the factory, and then it just kind of started, my own clients started to compete with my business, and I could see how I'm pushing them into the factory, and then now I have to wait for my clothes to come out of that factory, and it wasn't a smart cycle until we could solve the manufacturing problem that's happening in Hawaii, and then what the next step is to go to LA. Because the next step to LA is like 300 minimums. So I don't want to do that many minimums. So it's a really big jump to that next step. Yeah. If you have a solution. Engineers in the room, I don't know.
Any other questions, you guys?
Hi, I'm Julie.
Hi, Julie.
How did you get picked up by Nordstrom?
Ooh, Brian Tatsumura, the OGM of Nordstrom, always likes to tell the story of how brands get into Nordstrom. And he's like, if you want to know, ask Allison. It's because I literally stalked him. Like I would go to Nordstrom and I knew what he looked like, and I would be like, hi Brian, my name's Allison, I clothing line, and like I stalked him, and then we just became friends, and then he was like, okay, I'm gonna have coffee with this girl, so she stopped stalking me on the floor. And just the more that we talked, then he kind of, him and the late Alan Tomonari, who was the GM of Neiman Marcus, I stalked both of them. It's very creepy. But they both ended up mentoring me. And then there came an opening in Nordstrom when Fighting Eel left Nordstrom that they needed another local brand. And I was there because I stalked him. So yeah, and then Nordstrom has been really supportive of local here in Hawaii, but to take that next step to a San Francisco store or a different, demographic, it's really hard for Hawaii brands. We get pegged as a Hawaii brand, and then the buyers don't see our versatility, so that's a really hard thing too. But you can stop. He's not there anymore. I'm just joking. Yeah. It's a woman now. I don't know if it'll work as much, but you can try.
My name is Daryl.
Hi, Daryl.
What did you do with all of those clothes that were made for you?
Good question. Actually, we made it into other things. So, yeah, and some of it was like plus jackets, and then we cropped it. You'll see it at the space one day. I'm going to show it to Lindsay. She'll bring it to school. Yeah, so it's like, and it was good at the time. I had a small factory and home sewers that would do that for me, but yeah, it was hard. I feel like I still have some pieces, and that happened maybe like 4 years ago. So yeah, that's how big that order was, and that's how like devastating it was to get it all back. Yeah. You want some? Yeah, I have a lot, yeah. I also have a lot of like winter fabric because I bought all of this winter fabric for Von Maur, and I'm like, well, what do I do with it in Hawaii? It's like wool blends, and yeah, I should donate it to you guys. I just thought of that. All right.
Amazing. What about anybody else have any questions?
Ask me about Ala Moana or something. Yes.
I'm sorry. I just have a question, a couple of questions.
Yes.
Like, how do you make those kind of clothes that fit for a body that's not like normal? Like, you just like based on your experience, like okay, what to do with big hip. This is your own experience, or they actually some kind of like we can calculate. Like, because I'm not in the fashion industry, I don't know about it. Like, is there anything that we can actually calculate? Like, we can know, okay, with that kind of hip and with that, we can make a pants or clothes like that. So that's a question.
Okay, I'll bank it. Go.
Okay.
Second question.
No, sorry. This is just what you think. I'm not sure this is related or not. How do you think about the app? Right now they have lots of apps. You can just like put it on and see how you look. Like, how do you think about that? And how do you think about the manufacturing in Hawaii?
Okay.
At this right now.
Okay, so the first question, that's a really good question, and it's something that I think a lot of the design students work with now is, do you guys do Optitex? Right. Okay, so we do CAD also in fashion, so it's very similar to like architecture and engineering CAD, and we take measurements. A lot of it, for me anyways, is 1, put it on my body, 2, put it on my mom's body, and then 3, see it on customers. So even when my pattern goes out and I make it and it's produced and it sells in the store, the great thing about having retail now is that I get to see it on customers, and I get to like be able to change it immediately and know like, oh, that doesn't fit a wide hip person. I need to make a style that has like a little more room in there, a little more generous. So those are always kind of the things I have to think about, is just like sizing, proportions, and that sort of thing. I always start with myself, and I always say I'm like a little A with a little S qualities in me. So, and once you can figure out kind of proportionate and how people grow and change body types, that's kind of how I start to learn. But through this, and what I envision this to become, is some sort of app. And so I'm actually worked out an algorithm of what is the difference between a waist and a hip and a bust measurement, right? So you put in your 3 measurements, and then the little computer goes, and then boom, out pops 2 letters, just based on the differences. And so I measure, one of our projects was just to measure as many people who would allow us to measure them. And then visually, I would be like, okay, that's her measurements. Visually, I think she's an A. do her measurements, would it calculate to become an A? So that's something that I'm working on now, as like, whether it's an interface on my website or just something. I also think women come to me and just because they have a little extra room in the middle, extra poochies, they think they're an O, like immediately, right? Because that's their insecurity. So women focus on our insecurity, and then we identify with a letter based on our insecurity, but that's not really how it should be. It's really more about proportions. App-wise, I know they're like virtual dressing rooms and that sort of thing. For me, I love tech. And I love like the revolution that it's kind of like instilling in our industry, but I also feel like a lot of the tech companies like Untuckit and Warby Parker, they all started online through apps, and they're all coming back to brick and mortar. So there's definitely always gonna be a need, especially for somebody who wants to like touch it, feel it, put it on, and like really understand how the brand works. So hopefully apps and that kind of tech don't take over everything within our industry, but it definitely helps. And manufacturing. What do you mean manufacturing? What do I think of the future of manufacturing? We could go on for hours on that one.
I'm sorry, because you were saying that you have a lot of problems with the manufacturing in Hawaii, so I just want to make like a comparison. And how is it going right now? Is this already developed, or is still like 10 years ago, like with this?
So Hawaii has a really good manufacturing industry, and we always have. We have really big brands like Jams and Tory Richard, and they all support our industry really well. But at the same time, because they consume a lot of the time in these factories, for smaller brands, it's really hard for me to get my things out on a certain time. It's hard for me to get my stuff in. And I noticed when Ren's left and took their manufacturing to LA, there seemed to be like more time in factories, because now that Ren's left, all of these factories had hours that they needed to fill up with other brands. So it was easier now for me to kind of step in. So I always try to talk to the state about a cyclical or like a escalator of movement that we need to have happen. And if they could help support a business like me, who's just on that verge of going to LA, to help me, to fund me to take it to LA, then all of my time in the factories now opens up for you guys, right? And that's what I see would work in our industry. Not that Tory Richard and Jams have to move out of Hawaii, because I feel like they, give our industry validity, but sort of, I think we all have to kind of move out of preschool and go into kindergarten. So that's my hope for manufacturing. I was telling Savannah that also the other sad thing about manufacturing is nobody wants to go into manufacturing. So nobody wants to sit at a sewing machine for 8 hours a day and sew. So I always also think we could change the way factories are built. We could change the way that we actually sew. Like the state's already looking to like robots coming in and sewing, and I feel like we could employ people and humans to do this job. So I don't really know what the answer is, but I feel like the escalator thing is a good start, And I think funding could definitely help budding brands to then move into factories. And I always think it's the sad truth about when you guys first start a business. I mean, I did it too. And you sit at a sewing machine and you sew the clothes that you're gonna sell. And you don't pay yourself to sew the clothes. You just sew it. And then you're like, I'm gonna sell this for $20, even though it took you 4 hours to sew, the fabric cost $6, right? And nobody's thinking through this business plan of how am I gonna make money to buy more fabric, to make more clothes. And it would be so great if budding entrepreneurs could just go straight into like a mini factory that was, had like this mama-san who would like help us all through it, right? And like, that's kind of what I always wish could happen here in Hawaii, because we have such a great community. All of the brands, we all support each other. We're very collaborative. So it'd be great to kind of see a factory built that way. So whoever wants to build a factory like that, I can help you. But yeah, that's my solution of world peace. Thank you.
Well, did anyone have any last minute questions?
Hi, my name is Mariana.
Hi, Leanne.
I just wanted to know how you started off, like how you got your funding, and then you said you went through huge debt.
Still in debt, girl, still in debt. I wrote a business plan. I didn't even qualify for a loan. I got a line of credit, and I maxed out a lot of credit cards. Fashion, my husband is an entrepreneur too, but he has a service business. He's a landscaper, and I always hate him because to do a service is so easy to start a business. To make a product, I have to make, and clothing, I have to make every size. I can't just go out and be like, I have this one shirt in an extra small. Who wants to buy it, right? I have to come out with a collection. And so that's the hard thing about fashion. And that's where, once you get the funding, we still have to, like I said, make a spring collection, make a fall collection, and keep going so that we look credible. Like I used to do trunk shows in LA, and nobody would come to my booth. And I would talk to the ladies next to me and be like, what's going on? And they're like, oh no, you have to be here at least 3 shows in a row for buyers to feel like you're the real deal. And I was like, 3 shows in a row? This booth is like $5,000. I have to do this 2 more times for a buyer to then sit down with me. But that's our industry, because they want to make sure that you're going to be there next year and they can buy from you again. They don't want a one-hit wonder and then you disappear next season because you don't have funding to continue on your collections. So, I know, it sucks. Yes?
My name is Ben, and I'm wondering how involved your husband is in all that you do.
Oh, good question. He's very involved. He's like the super handyman guy. So we opened Ala Moana in literally 7 days. And he built out the whole store. Yeah, so, and I think he's also very secure in his manhood, where he's okay being Mr. Mom too. When I have to, work late or do things on the weekend, he's totally fine taking the kids wherever. Like when we go on sourcing trips in LA, all of the factory owners are like, oh, your husband just takes the kids? And I was like, yeah, he just goes, he drops me off, do my thing. He's my chauffeur, picks me up. But, it takes a village to run a business for sure. Yeah. Yes.
My name is Joel. When you run out of ideas, where do you look for inspiration? And keep making stuff.
I never run out of ideas. No, I'm just kidding. That's my problem. No, I think I love that I have retail now because wholesale was something that, Nordstrom would just say, stop making that top. We can't sell it anymore. And I had no idea why. I would just stop making the top. And I literally have this one top that is my best seller that Nordstrom told me to stop making that I still sell today in my stores, like sellout kind. And I realized that by adding retail, when I'm in the store, I get to see the clothing on women. I get to hear their comments. I get to get that feedback. And because I'm a designer, I can make that happen. And so I think that's where I get inspired is by seeing it on my customers and knowing why they gravitate towards styles. A lot of women are like, I don't want to show my arms. So I do a lot of 3/4 sleeves, and so that's what always inspires me is to kind of problem solve for my customers. When they say short women will always tell me I've never owned a pair of jeans before because it's just too frustrating of an experience. And so I love that kind of challenge. That's when I get inspired. And I'm like, I'm going to figure this out. So I'm not I will always tell people I'm not the most creative designer, but I think I'm a creative problem solver. And I think I'm more of a business person than a designer because if you give me a problem, I want to solve it. Yes.
Two parts.
Oh, okay.
Really quick.
No.
One, you mentioned briefly about 7 days going to Ala Moana, so you just want to share with the students about that experience and how they can get to your level, hopefully 10 years from now. And then the second part is, I was looking through your website and noticed you have an Izu box. Can you explain just a little bit before we break off?
Yeah, that's a good one. So after I had a small stint in Ward Warehouse, we had a store there for about a year, and then our next space was Kaimuki, and I was like, oh my God, Ward Warehouse was so convenient for people that I was really worried about moving to a very rural, small community in Kaimuki, and were my Pearl City customers going to come all the way to Kaimuki to shop, and the subscription box day is just so huge, I thought, I'm going to do an Izu box. So I put 3 pieces, they get it monthly or quarterly, they can kind of choose. And it was just something that we beta tested and we found success with. The hard part is the app part, and it is, making all of the software talk to each other. And another hard part is that women don't necessarily buy 3 pieces every month. So then now I'm kind of back to the drawing board of figuring out how my subscription service can kind of tie it into my letters. I'm still playing with like ideas, like a letter, right? Like an envelope, a letter, but like, I don't know, if you guys think of something, call me. But so kind of transitioning out of Izu Box and pushing it back to maybe 1 or 2 pieces a month. So Ala Moana was an experience. Ala Moana wanted to start to expand into local brands. So they have brands like Manaola, Aloha Beach Club, Homecoming. We're all small local businesses. And so what they do with us is they work out a different deal. It's like temp leases. And a lot of the malls are doing this now because Pro Ridge also approached me to do it. But it's more affordable rent. And it's for a short amount of time to see if you can be successful. And then if you're successful, then they might give you another 6 months. If somebody wants your space, though, they kick you out in 30 days. So that's kind of there's a store downstairs called Les Palmes, and she picked like mall level, really high profile areas. And so she keeps having to move because a bigger brand will want to take over that space. I chose level 3, like in a weird corner. It's the old American Apparel space. And they told me like nobody wants this space. And I know why. There's no elevator that connects to that space. So when I take inventory in, I take it in IKEA bags up 2 flights of stairs. So I know why nobody wants that space, I get it, but I probably won't get kicked out of it anytime soon. So that's a good thing, right? Yeah. But it was one of those things that I probably could have taken a little more time, but they gave me the keys, and I was like, I have to open before Christmas because I have to, right? And so I was like, we're gonna do this. We're just gonna like, balls to the walls, we're gonna do it. And I started buying racks and mannequins even before they gave me the keys. I was like, if anything, I can ship it back, mannequins, whatever, So I started to kind of get ahead of myself. But if you come into my store, it's really basic, it's very simple. We kept the rustic, distressed floors, and it's like white and really clean and minimal. So, yeah, crazy times though.
All right, well, thank